or until the doctor says it's not good news. That thin view of grace sounds really fine until life hits the fan, and suddenly we start wishing we were equipped to respond in certain Jesus-like ways. The Barn Group is a group that surveys people in the West in Christianity, and over again they come out with surveys when they ask people, like, what has following Jesus changed for in your life? And the answers come back pretty consistently, not much. I like the way Dallas Willard talks about this. Dallas Willard says, non-discipleship, if you can put that up, non-discipleship is the elephant in the church. It's not the much-discussed moral failures, financial abuses, or the amazing general similarities between Christians and non-Christians. These are only effects of the underlying problem. It is now understood to be a part of the good news that one does not have to be a life student of Jesus in order to become a Christian and receive forgiveness of sins. This gives a precise meaning to cheap grace, though it would be better described as costly faithlessness. How did we get here? How did we get here from this idea of following the most revolutionary man who ever lived to really not making much of a difference for us? I think a lot of us, we reacted, at least this is my story, I reacted to this view of legalism, where following Jesus involved, certain rules and a certain way of life. And we realized, we were free in Christ. And we reacted against that. We realized God didn't judge people based on whether or not they made these petty mistakes. And that's a needed shift. But something started to creep in, didn't it? We started to believe that since God forgave sins, our character no longer mattered. Look, I no longer believe that drinking beer is a sin. I think drinking light beer might be a sin, but not drinking beer. You're free. If you're 21 years of age, you're free to drink. But if you use that freedom too much, too often, and for the wrong reasons, you may find yourself in a day where you are no longer not free to drink. When I was 18 years old, the good people of Delaware sent me a little plastic card, and they told me I could use it for whatever I wanted. And I did. Anytime I wanted anything. I bought clothes. I bought my friends' clothes. I spent more money than I'd ever seen in my life. Whenever something I saw I wanted, I shook the money tree. And all of a sudden, I wanted that money back. And I was free to spend until I found myself unable to be free to spend on anything but paying them back. And here's what James is saying. He's not saying this because he's a legalist. Remember, he's the younger brother come back. He's not trying to slave for Jesus. He's trying to be a servant for Jesus. He knows this is the best possible way to live. That's why he says this is the life that gives freedom. And this is what I wish we knew. This works both ways. Our bad habits lead to death and destruction, but our good habits can lead to life. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a great book called Outliers, where he basically said the really great people, the people who are masters of certain arts, are people who have spent 10,000 hours practicing. They're the people who have been able to master their discipline. And that sounds like common sense, but it's not very common. Because a lot of us know a lot of information about Jesus. But you know what they call people who know a lot of information about people without a relationship with them? Stalkers. Have any of you ever been stalked? You probably wouldn't know if it was a good stalker, but that's what it is. And so many of us, we grew up, we'd hear these Bible stories, and then our teacher, or maybe we would say, Jesus raised these people from the dead. You know what the Greek or Hebrew word for the dead is? And we'd go down that trail for a little bit. And some of you maybe have left church because you kind of intuitively knew you wanted to do something with your life before you were the Greek or Hebrew word of dead. And by the way, I'm very grateful for our tribe and the way that we really care about loving God with our minds. But anytime I'm tempted to think that that's primarily what this is about, I look at my bookshelf. I borrowed these from the Pepperdine library.